Hello dear students, this is Vishal sir from Ikra High School. Today we'll be studying chapter 14 Natural Resources from Standard 9 NCERT syllabus. Let's first read the lesson for better understanding. Chapter 14 Natural Resources. Our planet Earth is the only one on which life as we know exists. Life on Earth is dependent on many factors. Most life forms we know need an ambient temperature, water and food. The resources available on the earth and the energy from the sun are necessary to meet the basic requirement of all life forms on the earth. So dear students, while we study natural resources, we'll study the resources available on earth. Because as we know that earth is the only planet where the life exists in our solar system. But for a life to exist, there needs certain criteria: ambient temperature, water and food. And these are the things that we call resources. But these resources reach to us, or we utilize these resources only when they are provided by the earth and the sun. Now these resources on the earth are divided into three parts: the land known as lithosphere, water, hydrosphere and air, atmosphere. The outer crust of the earth is called lithosphere. Water covers 75% of Earth's surface. It is also found underground. These comprise the hydrosphere. The air that covers the whole of the earth like a blanket is called atmosphere. Now, where these three things all merge together and where life exists is called biosphere. Living things are found to where these three exist. This life supporting zone of the earth where the atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere interact and make life possible is known as biosphere. Living things constitute the biotic component of the biosphere. The air, water and the soil form the non-living or the abiotic component of the biosphere. The next topic is the breath of life, air. Air is a mixture of many gases like nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide and water vapor. It is interesting to note that even the composition of air is the result of life on Earth. In planets such as Venus and Mars, where no life is known to exist, the major component of the atmosphere is found to be carbon dioxide. So dear students, the life on Earth is possible due to the only life-giving gas, oxygen. If oxygen wasn't present on Earth, there probably won't be any life on Earth. The carbon dioxide constitute up to 95 to 97% of the atmosphere on Venus and Mars. Though oxygen is needed for breaking down of glucose molecules and getting the activities for many eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells, it is also known that this oxygen is sometimes considered as poison for many bacteria. This oxygen is utilized by all the living organisms and in return they give out carbon dioxide. But the carbon dioxide, the proportion of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere does not exceed to a certain limit. There are many human activities as well as natural activity which promote the increase of the proportion of carbon dioxide in atmosphere. But despite this, the percentage of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere is a mere fraction of percent because carbon dioxide is fixed in two ways. The first, as you know, green plants utilize their food through photosynthesis, which during photosynthesis they consume carbon dioxide. Also, marine animals use this carbon dioxide present in water as carbonates to make their shells. So the proportion of carbon dioxide or the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is almost balanced by the environment. This atmosphere is also responsible for climate control. As you know, during day, the sun gives intense amount of heat to the earth, and during night, while the sun is not there, there is a cold blanket of air. But still, there is not a major difference in the daytime and the night time on earth. If you have observed on moon, there is a large difference of temperature in the night and in the day. During night, the temperature exceeds up to minus 190 degrees centigrade, and during day it goes up to 110 degrees centigrade, that is near about the boiling point of water, because the moon does not have any atmosphere and the lack of atmosphere gives rise to the drastic change in the night temperature and the day temperature. So we can say the atmosphere on the earth is responsible for the climatic control, the movement of air, wind. How is this movement of air caused? So during daytime, the heat of the sun heats the air near the surface of the land. The land heats faster than the surface near the ocean. So the air near the land becomes hot and it rises as they are lighter than the cool air. The cool air is denser than the hot air. As soon as the hot air moves in the upper region of the atmosphere, the cool air takes its place. This creates the movement of air known as winds. So during daytime, the breeze flows from sea to land because the temperature near the sea increases slowly, while the temperature on the land increases rapidly during daytime. But during night time, this becomes vice versa. The rapid increase in the temperature in the daytime on the land is rapidly decreased also during the night time. But the temperature near the surface of the ocean decreases slowly. So the temperature near the ocean is hotter than the temperature at the land. So the hot air or the warm air on the surface of the water rises upward in the atmosphere, and the cool air from the land flows towards the sea. So this way the movement of air continues during night also. Land gets heated faster than water. The air over the land would also be heated faster than the air over the water bodies. So if we look at the situation in coastal region during the day, the air above the land gets heated faster and starts rising. As this air rises, a region of low pressure is created and air over the sea moves in this area of low pressure. The movement of air from one region to other creates wind. Our next topic is rain. How does there are frequent rainfalls on earthen surface? So when water bodies are heated during the day, a large amount of water evaporates and goes into the air. Some amount of water vapor also gets into the atmosphere because of various biological activities. This air also gets heated. The hot air rises up, carrying the water vapor with it. As the air rises, it expands and cools. This cooling causes the water vapor in the air to condense in the form of tiny droplets. This condensation of water is facilitated if some particle could act as the nucleus for this drop to form around. Normally, dust and other suspended particles in the air perform the function. The water droplets are formed. They grow bigger by the condensation of these water droplets. When the droplets have grown big and heavy, they fall down in the form of rain. When the temperature of air is low enough, precipitation may occur in the form of snow, sleet or hail. Air pollution. The increasing level of oxide of nitrogen and sulfur creates air pollution. From where this nitrogen and sulfur get into the atmosphere? It is the human activity that increase the composition of nitrogen and sulfur in the atmosphere. We burn fossil fuels like coal and petrol that contains small amount of nitrogen and sulfur. When these fuels are burned, nitrogen and sulfur are too burned and produced different oxides of nitrogen and sulfur, which are also harmful for the inhalation. They are very dangerous while we inhale. They also dissolve in rain to give acid rain. The combustion of fossil fuel also increase the amount of suspended particles in air. These suspended particles could be unburned carbon particles or substance called hydrocarbon. So these are the main pollutants of our atmosphere. The unburned particles of carbon, what we call hydrocarbon, which we get from the fossil fuels, because fossil fuel contains nitrogen and sulfur, and when they are burned in inadequate amount of oxygen, they become hydrocarbons. And because of this high level of pollutants, visibility is also lowered. So you can have a situation where smog like situation has happened. Water gets condensed out of this air and it is known as smog. Studies have shown that regularly breathing air that contains any of this substance increase incidence of allergy, cancer and heart disease. An increase in the content of this harmful substance in air is called air pollution. Our next topic is water, which is also a wonderful liquid and because of which we say that the life exists on earth. It occupies a very large area of earth's surface and also found underground. Some amount of water exists in the form of water vapor in the atmosphere. Most of the water on Earth's surface is found in sea and ocean is saline. That means majority of the water found on the Earth is not used by living beings. They are only used by marine aquatic animals and plants. Fresh water is found frozen in ice cap at two poles and on snow-covered mountain. The underground water and the water in river, lake and pond is also fresh. However, availability of fresh water varies from place to place. Most places have to face a shortage of water during summer season, and in rural area where the water supply system has not been installed, people are forced to spend considerable amount of time in fetching water from far away sources. So why is water so important or so necessary? Because it is not only important for drinking, washing, cleaning, but the body of living organism is composed of more than 50% of water. All cellular process takes place in water medium, and that reaction that takes place within our body, within the cell, occur between the substances that are dissolved in water. Substances also transported from one part of the body to other in a dissolved form. Hence, organisms need to maintain the level of water within their body in order to stay alive. Terrestrial life form require fresh water for this because their water bodies cannot tolerate or get rid of the high amount of water dissolved in saline water. Thus, water source need to be easily accessible for animal and plant to survive on land. So that is why it is said water is the only major resource which determine life on land. How is water polluted? It is polluted when we use fertilizer and pesticides in our farmland. There's some percentage of fertilizer and pesticide are washed away into the water bodies. Also, sewage from our towns and cities and waste from factory also dumped into rivers and lakes. Specific industries also use water for cooling in various operations and later return this water to water bodies. So this way, water is polluted. The water inside the deep reservoir would be cooler than the water at the surface which gets heated by the sun. All this can affect the life forms that are found in this water body in various ways. So it can encourage the growth of some life forms and harm other life forms. This affects the balance between various organism which has been established in the system. So we consider water pollution in three ways. First, the addition of undesirable substance to water bodies like fertilizer and pesticides. There are also poisonous substances like mercury salts which are used in paper industry which are released in water bodies and that causes the water to pollute. Also, the second way of polluting water may be the removal of desirable substance from water body. That means dissolved oxygen is used by animal and plant that live in water. Any change that reduce the amount of this dissolved oxygen would be adversely affecting the aquatic organism and that would be considered as a pollution of water. The third would be the change in temperature. Aquatic organisms are used to certain range of temperature in the water body where they can live, and when there is a sudden marked change in this temperature, it would be dangerous for them or affect their breeding. The egg and larva of various animals are particularly susceptible to temperature change. That means they may die if there is a drastic change in the temperature. In these three ways, the water can be polluted. Now let's talk about mineral riches in the soil. That means we are now talking about lithosphere. Soil is an important resource that decides the diversity of life in an area. The outermost layer of our earth is called crust, and the mineral found in this layer supply a variety of nutrition to the life form. But these minerals will not be available to the organism if the minerals are bound in huge rocks. So this soil is formed from these huge rocks. But these huge rocks need to be broken down to form soil. It takes millions of years for the soil of a certain place to form. During that millions of years, the bigger boulders and rocks are broken down by many factors. Which are these factors? The first is sun. The sun heats up the rock during the day, so they expand. At night, these rocks cool down and contract. Since all part of the rock do not expand and contract at the same rate, this results in formation of crack and ultimately huge rock break up into smaller pieces. Then the second factor that breaks the rock further is water. Water helps in the formation of soil in two ways. Number one, water could get into the crack in the rock formed due to uneven heating of the sun. When this water freezes, it would cause the crack to widen. Secondly, flowing water wears away even hard rock over a long period of time. Fast flowing water often carry big and small particles of rock downstream. These rock rub against other rock and resultant abrasion cause the rock to wear down into smaller and smaller particles. So the pebbles that you find near the seashore, the round, smooth surface pebbles are due to the excessive abrasions caused during the rocks to wear down into smaller pieces. They rub against each other and their surfaces become smooth, while the rough surfaces break down into minute particles which forms a part of soil. The water then takes these particles along with it and deposits it further down into its path. Soil is thus found in places far away from this parent rock. The third factor that breaks the rock and forms the soil is wind. It has a similar process like water. Strong wind also erode rock down. The wind carries sand from one place to other like water does. And the fourth factor is a living organism like the lichen. It grows on the surface of the rock. While growing, they release chemical substance that cause rock surface to powder down and form a thin layer of soil. Other small plants like moss are able to grow on the surface now and they cause the rock to break up further. The roots of big trees sometimes go into crack in the rock and as the root grow bigger, the crack is forced bigger. Soil is a mixture. It contains small particles of rock. It also contains bits of decayed living organisms such as humus. In addition, soil also contains various forms of microscopic life. This type of soil is decided by the average size of particle found in and the quality of the soil is decided by the amount of humus and the microscopic organism found in it. Humus is a major factor in deciding the soil structure because it causes soil to become more porous and allows water and air to penetrate deep underground. The topmost layer of the soil that contains humus and living organism in addition to the soil of particles is called topsoil. The quality of the topsoil is an important factor that decides the biodiversity in that area. Modern farming practice involves the use of large amount of fertilizer and pesticide. And using this substance over a long period of time can destroy the soil structure by killing the soil microorganism that recycle nutrient in the soil. It also kills earthworm, which are considered as an instrument in making the rich humus. So fertile soil can be turned into barren if the sustainable particles are not followed. The removal of useful component from soil and addition of other substance adversely affect the fertility of the soil and kill the diversity of the organism that live in it, and this is called soil pollution. So in this way the soil is polluted. Now dear children, as we know that the earth we have divided into four main parts: the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the lithosphere, and the combination of this is called biosphere. How are these all connected with each other? They are connected in biogeochemical cycles. So there is a constant interaction between the biotic and abiotic component of the biosphere that makes it dynamic but stable system. These interaction consist of transfer of matter and energy between the different components of the biosphere. So this biogeochemical cycles transfers the matter and energy between all the three spheres. Let's study the first cycle, the water cycle. So as you know, the water cycle, it is not as simple as water evaporates from the water body and subsequent condensation of water vapor leads to rain. The water cycle is little more explanatory. The whole process in which water evaporates and fall back on land as rain and later flow back into the sea via the river is known as water cycle. All the water that falls on the land does not immediately flow back into the sea. Some of it seeps into the soil and become the part of the underground reservoir of fresh water. Some of this underground water find its way to the surface through springs, or we bring it to the surface for our use through well or tube wells. Water is also used by terrestrial animals and plants of various life processes. Water is capable of dissolving a large number of substances, and this water flows through or over the rock containing soluble mineral. Some of them get dissolved in the water. The river carry many nutrients from the land to sea, and these are used by the marine organism. The second biogeochemical cycle is nitrogen cycle. We are talking about the nitrogen gas that composes of 78% of our atmosphere, and many molecules, essential molecules like protein, nucleic acid and DNA and some vitamins have the base nitrogen. Nitrogen is also found in other biologically important compounds such as alkaloid and urea too. Nitrogen is thus an essential nutrient for all life forms. But this nitrogen, atmospheric nitrogen, cannot be used directly. So for it, there are few forms of bacteria which are able to convert nitrogen molecule into nitrate and nitrites. Here, as you see, which are not able to convert the comparatively inert nitrogen. That means our body is not directly able to consume nitrogen. Our body's genetic system is made of nitrogen base, DNA and RNA. Particles in our body or minerals in our body contain nitrogen, but that nitrogen is not directly consumed from the air. We get that nitrogen indirectly from plant. Even the plant does not have the capability to directly consume the nitrogen from the air. So for that, in pulses, which are also called leguminous plants, the root has root nodules, which has a bacteria which converts the nitrogen from the atmosphere into nitrate and nitrites that is dissolved in the soil, and from that soil the nitrogen oxide and nitrogen trioxide is consumed by plant as a major nutrient for its growth. When the plant is consumed by animals, that nitrogen is transferred from plant to animals. These bacteria are called nitrogen fixing bacteria, and this is called nitrification. While the nitrogen is been transferred in the animal body, when this animal die or when they urinate, that nitrogen is released in the atmosphere by some other bacteria which denitrificates the nitrogen dioxide or nitrogen trioxide into nitrogen atom and molecule, which is again released in the atmosphere. So this way, the nitrogen cycle is another biogeochemical cycle which transfers material or energy, nitrogen, from atmosphere to water or land, that is into living organism, from abiotic to biotic component, and again it returns to abiotic component in the atmosphere during denitrification. So this is called nitrogen cycle. Then we have carbon cycle. Now carbon is found in various forms on the earth. It is not found in the free form on the earth. It occurs in the elemental form as diamond and graphite, but in the combined state it is found as carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, also as well as carbonate and hydrogen carbonate salt in various minerals. While all life forms are based on carbon containing molecule like protein, carbohydrate, fat, nucleic acid and vitamins. The endoskeleton and exoskeleton of various animals are also formed from carbonate salt. Carbon is incorporated in the life form through basic process of photosynthesis, which is performed in the presence of sunlight by all life forms that contain chlorophyll. So the carbon cycle is another cycle, another biogeochemical cycle which transfers carbon from atmosphere to green plants, then to animals, and again from animal it is released in the atmosphere. Here you can see in the chart, the carbon in the atmosphere is consumed by green plant during photosynthesis. These plants make glucose through carbon dioxide and water that is been consumed by animals, so carbon enters into animals. It also becomes a biotic part as coal, carbonates in water as limestone, but these organic compounds in animals, when they breathe out or when they decompose or respire, that carbon dioxide is again transferred to carbon dioxide in atmosphere. So this is carbon cycle. The percent of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is said to have doubled since the Industrial Revolution, when human beings started burning fossil fuel on a very large scale. Thus, cycled repeatedly through the different forms by the various physical and biological activity makes the unbalanced amount of carbon in nature, which creates the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is the increase in the proportion of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This carbon dioxide has the property to absorb heat energy during the daytime, and during night time this heat energy is released again back in the atmosphere, which creates a balanced atmosphere in the environment. But what if the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere increases? That would gradually increase the heat in the atmosphere, which will cause some phenomena like global warming. Then we have another cycle, oxygen cycle, which is also a biogeochemical cycle which transfers oxygen from atmosphere to living beings, that is biotic part of the spheres, and which is again returned back in the atmosphere. Oxygen is very abundant element of the earth and found in the elemental form in the atmosphere to the extent of 21%. It also occurs extensively in the combined form in the earth crust as well as in the air in the form of carbon dioxide. This oxygen is present in free state also and in the combined state also. It is also found in the oxides of most metal and silicon, and also as carbonate, sulfate, nitrate and other minerals. When we talk of oxygen cycle, we are mainly referring to the cycle of the maintaining the level of oxygen in the atmosphere. As you can see in the diagram, oxygen from the atmosphere is used up in three processes, namely combustion. When you burn something, oxygen is released. When respiration is done, oxygen is there, and in the formation of oxides of nitrogen. It is returned to the atmosphere in only one major process, and that process is photosynthesis. So oxygen which is present in the atmosphere is used during the whole cycle, but it is returned back to the atmosphere only during photosynthesis. Ozone layer. Elemental oxygen is normally found in the form of diatomic molecule. That means it is found in O2 form. However, in the upper reach of the atmosphere, a molecule containing 3 atoms of oxygen is found. This would mean a formula of O3 and it is called ozone. Unlike the normal diatomic molecule of oxygen, ozone is poisonous and we are lucky that it is not stable near to the earth's surface. It is in the stratosphere of the earth atmosphere, that is above the earth atmosphere. But it performs an essential function where it is found. It absorbs harmful radiation from the sun. This prevents those harmful radiation from reaching the surface of the earth where they may damage many forms of life. Man has made compound like CFC, that is chlorofluorocarbon, which is a carbon compound having both fluorine and chlorine, and this compound has the ability to disintegrate the ozone layer above the surface of earth. As you can see here in the chart, in 1980, the blue highlight or the purple highlight you can see is the hole in the ozone layer. It has gradually increased during recent past. This resulted in the reduction of ozone layer, and recently they have discovered a hole in the ozone layer above the Antarctica. So how can this be stopped? People are advocating towards stopping all the further damage to the ozone layer. It is been damaged due to our human activities of using CFC particle compounds. So that organizations are trying their best to control the activities for using CFC molecules. So here we come to the end of the chapter. Thank you.